Yeah. So as I was saying, the Giants game was a little bit disappointing because the Eagles, they actually allow a lot of points to the slot wide receivers
Right.
along with the tight ends. Like they are the worst team by far against the tight ends. Have you seen like their stats up against tight ends?
Yeah, it's pretty bad how badly they can't stop a tight end.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, a tight
brutal.
end, a wide receiver,
Yeah, tight end and
tight
the
ends too.
slot guy, like so, I was sitting there, I was hoping for Kadarius Toney, I was hoping for Sterling Shepard, one of those guys to be healthy. Neither one were healthy, which was like majorly disappointing. But it is what it is. Now they have a hole over there at slot. So I was trying to figure out which guy I wanted to go with, and I already wanted to go with Evan Ingram, which I'm not a big fan of I'm not a big fan of Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram is somebody I don't like. I think that he's going to set the league record for drops in a career for the tight end position. I mean, I think it's very, very possible that could happen. So, I'm not in on Evan Ingram. However, I was like, all right, he's going to end up being the top target, in this offense at the tight end position. He could end up getting a couple touchdowns. I was very excited for this matchup. And then I was like, wait, now he could end up playing the slot as well. I mean, he already plays the most snaps for the slot position for the Giants as it is, according to PFF. So I'm like, damn, like now he can end up being the target for the slot guy and he can be the target for the tight end position. I'm like, I'm all in on Evan Ingram and DFS this week. I think that's a killer play. And then the one guy that nobody is talking about is Chris Myrick. He's the practice squad tight end for the Giants. And they have Caden Smith out. They have Kyle Rudolph out. So the fourth option is this practice squad guy.
Oh, right, yeah.
Chris Myrick. And in the preseason, Chris Myrick played. He's only played in 2 games thus far this season. He's only ran like 15 routes or something like that. And he's not hyper athletic. He's like, when you see him, you're like, damn, I do not like this guy, in his metrics. Like, it's just not going to work out. But it's Chris Myrick over there for DFS. Like, he caught a 34-yard pass down the seam in the preseason up against the Bengals. And he looked good doing it. Like, he looked a lot more athletic than what his metrics would lead you to believe. Kind of like the John Bates, if you will, for the Washington football team.
Love John Bates.
Like he's John Bates isn't hyper athletic or anything, but he gets the job done. Kyle Rudolph, same thing. He's a perfect Giants tight end. Caden Smith, when he got the start last year, he was able to perform. So if Evan Ingram ends up moving to the slot, and then you have Chris Myrick playing the tight end position, he could end up going off. He's a DFS cheat code this week. I love it.
No, that's definitely, I like that point there for sure. I mean, Edmond Ingram he's due for a big game. It all like kind of works out together right now, and he hasn't really performed that well as of late. But I mean, all the dominoes have fallen for him to have a really big day today, and especially in DFS. I mean, I think he's pretty low if I'm not mistaken, and he's definitely worth the risk this week for sure.
Yeah, he's like in the 4K range or something for DraftKings. It's an excellent play. Yeah. All right. So welcome on in Fantasy Football Discussion. We have a start or sit show lined up for you guys. I'm over here joined by Steve. You guys can find him on Twitter at Coach Steve or at Coach Stephen P. Excuse me, at Coach Stephen P. on Twitter. You guys can go check out me at FF_intervention on Twitter. We're going to be answering your starter sit questions, so please line them up. I see Axel in the chat already. What's going on, Axel? And yes, I am wearing pants today. Just for the record, I am wearing pants.
Them y'all pants.
Oh, man. But yeah, so we're here to answer your starter sit questions, so please get them lined up. As for the injury report, Steven mentioned a couple guys are a little bit surprising. We were talking about Sterling Shepard and Kadarius Toney being out. Kyle Rudolph and Caden Smith are out for the Giants. Corey Davis is out for the Jets. Is there anybody else that really stands out that has some, fantasy impact or will have a fantasy impact, or I guess won't have a fantasy impact on your rosters today?
Just trying to look and see if I missed somebody here. I mean, you said Jeremy McNichols already, didn't you?
No, I did not.
Jeremy McNichols is definitely somewhat of a surprise once again because he had, if I'm not mistaken, it was a concussion injury that he kept him out last week, and now he's out again this week, and that kind of leaves the door open to that Dontrell Hilliard, who kind of everyone was kind of going out there to pick up on waivers this week as another option, especially with the Titans kind of destroyed at basically their star positions this week. If he sees another game like he saw last week, he could be in for another good fantasy day for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, this helps out with this helps out. Steven, are you wearing pants, man?
I'm wearing pants. Don't worry.
All right. Axel needs to know. Yeah, I mean this opens up the door a little bit for Donta Foreman, obviously with Adrian Peterson being out, so that's a big piece as well. But let's go ahead and get some of these starter sit questions in. We have Axel in the chat. Axel, welcome on in. We got Kareem Hunt or Elijah Moore this week. Kareem Hunt's back. However, he doesn't have the best matchup in the world. He's up against the Ravens. And if you guys follow the Dose Score, fantasyintervention.com/dose, DOCE, it will actually help you guys kind of distinguish these back-end flex type options. And the Ravens actually score a 5.09 in the Dose Score. It's 7th best in the NFL. And the Dose Score is actually talking about containing running backs, pass catching running backs. What it is it actually gauges your ability to start a pass catching running back, and it's hit multiple times this year. For example, like Joe Mixon has hit in all but 1 week up against teams in the bottom 5 or the bottom 10 of the Dose Score. So I normally, when I have these flex type options, I go to the Dose Score and I try and figure out. And since Kareem Hunt is primarily a pass catching running back who's coming back from an injury, mind you, it's something where I want to make sure that the Dose Score is going to be like, oh, you need to play him like it's a bottom 3 team, because he's probably going to have a limited amount of touches. He's probably going to be used primarily in the receiving game, and up against the Ravens, who, like I said, are 7th in the Dose Score. I'm going to go ahead and fade Kareem Hunt and target Elijah Moore in a matchup, I believe, up against Houston.
That is correct, actually, and I'm right there with you, Chase. Kareem Hunt coming off injury is definitely something I kind of usually hesitate on when a player comes off injury, especially a player who's not going to see, at least like 65% of the workload in his first game back, because obviously Nick Chubb is there. Tough matchup. Again, the Ravens, they give up a lot of fantasy points to running backs, but they're pretty good overall at containing running backs outside of them scoring a touchdown here and there. But Elijah Moore has just been on fire. No Corey Davis this week. That just opens up the door for more targets for Elijah Moore. I know everyone's scared of Zach Wilson right now, but again, Houston's defense is not that great. They looked decent last week, but the Titans' offense was just atrocious last week. I'm still rocking Elijah Moore. I'm hitting that hot streak with him and continuing with that.
Yeah, I like it, man. He's been the wide receiver 1, believe it or not, over the past 4 weeks of this season. Wow. He is the wide receiver 1. So Elijah Moore is not somebody to fade. I know Zach Wilson is coming back, but Zach Wilson in college was actually has the highest completion percentage for deep balls of over 30+ yards since 2011. So he's somebody who can throw it deep. I think he was taking too many deep shot, opportunities, and was not accurate with them earlier on in the season. However, Elijah Moore wasn't really playing a full, variety of snaps, or a full snap count, essentially. So I'm going to be playing Elijah Moore in hopes that he can get a deep ball or two, and I think that he will be checking down to Elijah Moore. He'll be involved in the offense. All right, full PPR, Logan Thomas or Tyler Conklin. Thomas is probably on a pitch count. He will be on a pitch count to an extent. We know how Washington uses their primary tight ends, and that's 100% of the time. Conklin has a decent matchup this week. Which way are you going, Steven? Are you more towards Logan Thomas, or are you going to be playing the Tyler Conklin role?
I mentioned about injured players and like that, but I think Logan Thomas is a safe play this week, honestly. I mean, we've seen Ricky Seals-Jones at times produce for this Washington team. We've seen John Bates 1 week, produce a decent number for being John Bates. Logan Thomas is one of these primary targets in Washington right now for Tyler Heineke, and getting him back against the Seattle Seahawks, which I think overall is a pretty decent matchup, which likely could be end up being a Monday. I think they play Monday night shootout. Yep. Or Sunday night shootout this coming week here. So for Tyler Conklin, I like him. He gives you the solid floor, but the 49ers actually have allowed the fewest receiving yards of tight ends this year with 294 through 11 weeks now. That's about like 20, 30 yards at best, without me actually doing the math in my head. In terms of receiving yards, Tyler Conklin, he'll give you a safe floor. He might get you a 4 for 30, but Logan Thomas, I think, has the better upside in full point PPR.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. This is something where Logan Thomas is going to be involved with the offense up against the Seahawks, who, just allowed a big game. I don't like Tyler Conklin in this matchup. I'm going to go ahead and lean towards Logan Thomas. All right, we have Cordell Patterson or James Robinson in this one. Cordell Patterson coming back from injury. I think that he's a safe play. I know we talked about now 3 times in a row about players come back from injury. However, Cordell Patterson showed, just a dynamism that very few players are able to show. James Robinson has a decent matchup. but it's something as to where I have to lean the Cordell Patterson because of the pure upside in this one. I mean, he should put up significant points in a game that should be pass heavy. It's something where we're talking about two teams facing each other, but I believe that we will see a lot more offense in this one than we will defense. And to that point, Cordell Patterson should see, much more opportunities in the passing game and should end up putting up more points as a whole and has the upside of a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think you could go either way with this pick here. I'm probably leaning James Robinson just because I know he's going to see the most of the workload here. I know Cordell Patterson has been seeing a bigger workload over the last few weeks here, but that ankle injury he has there, I'm just slightly concerned if he re-aggravates that in this game here. The Jags defense has played a little bit better as of late. So I'd rather lean James Robinson. Atlanta does give up the 5th most fantasy points on a per game basis to running backs this year. So just because his overall workload, he does see a decent work in the passing game here. I'd probably lean James Robinson just for that. But honestly, I think this one is basically a toss-up, honestly. It could go either way.
Yeah, if you are in a close matchup, let's just say that you're projected to score about an equal amount of points, then probably go James Robinson. He's a safer option. But if you need upside, you need somebody to get you a couple of touchdowns. You need the receiving yards to get over 100, or total yards to get over 100. Cordell Patterson is going to give you the upside. So that's where I'll go with this.
Yeah, full point PPR for sure.
All right, Muth or Fant, also PPR or half PPR. Also Van Jefferson or Russell Gage, full PPR. So this is obviously two different leagues. Pat Freiermuth has been excellent over the past 2 weeks. I believe he's averaging 12.6 points per game. If I remember correctly, he's seen like 7 receptions per game, just over that. However, Fant has an insanely awesome matchup. Let me look real quick because, it was something where I was like, dude, Albert O could actually put up decent amount of points up against the Chargers over here. The Chargers are very good up against wide receivers. Their secondary is elite. However, up against the tight ends, they allow tight ends to get passes underneath. They allow tight ends to score touchdowns. So Fant is somebody, I did some research, and back in 2020, 36% of Fant's production, he had like 40 receptions last year. 36% of his yardage came on 3 receptions, which is absolutely insane. Like that's mind-blowing. I think it was something along the lines of like 40 receptions, and 36% of your production came on 3 receptions. That's insane. This is one of those games where Fant could actually have a blow-up type game. Where he could break a couple tackles and take it, to the end zone. He could see those red zone targets. So for that reason, I'm going Fant. I think he's an elite option this week. I have him a lot in DFS as well. He's somebody that I'm targeting heavy. It's half PPR. You need the big plays. Where are you leaning for the first starter sit out options?
Yeah, honestly, these are both great matchups for each player, honestly, this week. But I'm probably going to lean Fant as well. The way you look at it is that the Denver's offense, that no Fant can be their number 1 target leader this week. He absolutely could be. Pat Freiermuth, I love him, but I don't know if he's ever going to be that number 1 target this season. You have Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool's back again. You have Najee Harris, who had 19 targets last time they played the Cincinnati Bengals. So honestly, I think Noah Fant has that upside that you want for a tight end.
I like it. I'll take it. I'm in the same boat as you. All right, so we have, let's see. Sorry, I clicked off and ended up getting onto a different question. We have, Jamie. What's up, Jamie? How you doing, man? Jamie's in the chat. He wants to know, we had the second part of this question. I apologize. I am so sorry, Steven. I'm off this morning. I had a few drinks last night. I'm recovering. All right, so we had Van Jefferson or Russell Gage, full PPR. We'll see Odell Beckham integrated in the offense a little bit more as we continue to look forward. And Van Jefferson is going to be most likely the third option. However, it's still a little bit nerve-wracking playing Van Jefferson. I know that he's seen the targets. I don't know if that's going to be the constant going forward. I think it's going to be more, fluctuating as to the game plan. Meanwhile, we're seeing reports this morning about Matt Stafford. Did you see the reports this morning?
I did, yes. Very scary.
So he's having, arthritic issues with his back and his knees. Did I nail that right?
I think it's something with his elbow as well, too.
Okay, it's his elbow and his back. It's not his knees. Yeah. It's his elbow and his back. We're talking about like a Todd Gurley type situation where Todd Gurley had it with his knees. And the same thing is happening with Stafford and his back and his elbow. That's absolutely nerve-wracking, moving forward. But I don't think it affects him this week. He was on the injury report, I believe, on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
He was not on the injury report as of late, so it's not something that you have to worry about. But as we get close to the playoffs, it's something that's worth monitoring. So, looking at this game individually, I would probably go with Van Jefferson. You mentioned how the Jaguars have been better in the secondary as of late, and Russell Gage, I can't trust him. He gave you 0 receptions 2 weeks ago. Last week, he gave you a little bit of production. It's something where I cannot trust Russell Gage even more so than I cannot trust Van Jefferson, which is a little bit scary. I'm going to go Van Jefferson in this one in hopes of an upside and a touchdown. Where are you leaning?
Man, this one's another one that's really close for me, honestly. If it's full point PPR, I'll probably lean Russell Gage. It's very slight. Again, he's hard to trust too, but he's someone who can see 6 or 7 receptions in a game pretty easily. Van Jefferson hasn't done that too often this season, especially with Odell seeing more work on this offense. I'd rather lean Russell Gage, but it's a really close one. But full point PPR for me, it's got to be Gage.
Let's see. This is Van Jefferson's targets thus far over the past, let's say, since week 7. He's seen 7, 6, 7, 7 on targets, and the majority of those are downfield. He should be I haven't looked this up, but I'm guessing he has to be up there in unrealized air yards,
Probably.
doesn't he? Like incompletions, but downfield. So he has to see a significant amount of unrealized air yards in Van Jefferson. I'm actually going to look that up after we get done with the show. But yeah, I'm going to go Van Jefferson. He's going Russell Gage for the PPR purposes, which makes sense. I'm kind of split on that one as well. Superflex or Heineke? Superflex, Lawrence or Heineke? I think I'm going to go Heineke in this one. I like the matchup for Lawrence. I really do, but I can't trust Lawrence. Now, they're talking about utilizing the RPO more often. This was a big discussion topic over the past week with Urban Meyer and him not wanting to use Lawrence in the RPO, but the offensive coordinators want to use it. They're just afraid of, Lawrence possibly getting hurt. But Lawrence used the RPO in college and was widely successful with it, and they don't have anybody to pass to. They have nobody to pass to. So this could be a week where we see Lawrence get 50, 60 rushing yards, which is, massive in terms of talking about 2 risky options. And if Lawrence can pass on this Atlanta offense, which is shown, pretty easily done, I think that you could see Lawrence with a couple touchdowns, 50, 60 rushing yards, 200 yards passing. That's a solid week. That's an 18-point or so week. No, that's actually 20-plus points. So I like Heineke. I don't love the matchup. I think it can be a very low-scoring game. We're talking about 2 teams who rush the ball a ton. As I'm talking myself through this, I'm talking myself away from Heineke and into Lawrence. I was going to go Heineke right off the bat. I think I'm going to go Lawrence at this point.
I'm still going Heineke. He's had 6 QB1 performances this season. He's gone back-to-back games against tough defenses against the Bucs and Panthers now at QB1 status. Seattle's defense, overall is just average to me, honestly. And I think that, I know you say it's low scoring, but I think it could be a high scoring game. Washington's defense is pretty bad. I think Seattle gets it right this week, gets back on track here. And they don't have 6 running backs running the ball at once. They're going to have 2 at least. And they're probably going to throw the ball a little bit more, hopefully, with Russ getting even healthier from that finger injury. So I think Heineke for me, honestly, this week.
Yeah, so this is where we get in trouble as fantasy analysts, right? We sit there and we say, this is the week that it makes sense where everything should fall into place, right? This makes sense.
Right.
This is what should happen.
Right.
And we do this all the time. And we do it I do it more than anybody else. I'm like, this is what makes sense. Why don't they do this? And, I talk about the DOSE score, the dump off containment efficiency score. You guys can find it over there at fantasyintervention.com/DOCE. And we talk about how, this should happen up against this defense because this is what makes sense. And football really doesn't make sense. And the best thing that we can rely on is almost historical value, right? What's been happening. So although you're 100% correct as what should happen because the defense is horrible, Seattle's offense should be dynamic. It should be a shootout. I'm not I have to go with what's been happening historically with the Seahawks and with Washington as well, and just assume that it's going to be a low scoring game. And both teams are going to run the ball a ton. That's why I'm going Lawrence. But like I said, what you said, it's like it should. This is what should happen. This is what should happen. So I'm still going to go with Lawrence. Steven S. Heineke on this one. Now, are we going to do Chenault or Landry in this one? And I'm fading Landry this week. He doesn't look right. His juice is just not there. Juice ain't being juicy. So I'm going to fade Landry in this one up until I see the Browns passing more. I know that Baker Mayfield's dealing with some, shoulder injuries and whatnot, which, actually helps out Landry because Landry plays close to the line of scrimmage. But I still can't get on board with it. I'm going to go Chenault in hopes that Urban Meyer will finally use him as the primary receiver in this offense, something we've been talking about since the offseason.
Oh, yeah, I'm on the same boat, honestly. I mean, you lose Jamal Agnew, and hopefully that means Chenault's going to see more work, actually, for once. So, I mean, again, it's a good matchup. I wasn't against Lawrence at all, but the matchup's good for Lawrence, and it should be good for Chenault this week. So, Chenault's definitely the guy I'm leaning towards on this one.
Watch, it's going to be Tavon Austin is going to be the primary receiver in this offense.
Oh, Laquell Treadwell. That's who it is going to be. Watch.
We don't say that. All right, we have Sutton or Damian Harris. This one's tough because Ramondre Stevenson keeps on taking chunks away from this offense or chunks away from Damian Harris. And what Damian Harris got? Did he get hurt last week? Was that ended up leaving the game?
No, that was the week before. He played last week. It was a Thursday night game.
Yeah, and he did all right. I think he got 9 points or so in PPR leagues. It wasn't a bad game from Damian Harris, but Ramondre Stevenson once again looked decent. Sutton, meanwhile, just signed a new contract. He's now going to be made sure that he's a focal point of this offense. They're going to try and showcase Courtland Sutton to Aaron Rodgers, essentially, because that's where Denver wants to go this offseason. They're going to try and make these wide receivers look good, but it is a tougher matchup. They have the Chargers, and the Chargers, like we talked about in the beginning of the show, are one of the best teams up against the wide receiver. I'm going to lean Damian Harris in this one. I'm going to assume that the Patriots actually go up and that they have to run the ball, and Damian Harris will be a focal point. So I'm going to lean on Damian Harris, but there's not a lot of upside with either one of these players, in my opinion. Do you have a different view on this?
No, unfortunately not. I mean, unless they would have told me what the scoring system is, but even then, it's like, Sutton's got a tough matchup. He's not seeing a ton of targets. Again, maybe the big contract somehow gets him another 3 or 4 targets a game. That'd be great.
I don't know. That's a lot of targets to increase.
Okay, 2 or 3, 1 or 2 more targets. Again, that's still, he's not seeing a lot. He's only averaging like 4 targets over the last 4 games now. I mean, it's not great. If he could see 6, maybe I'll have some faith, but I just don't. And I'd rather go, like you said, with Harris, and hopefully that the Patriots are going to be ahead in this game and just running the ball, and hopefully Damian Harris gets a late touchdown for no reason that helps out our fantasy days.
Yeah, Tennessee has nobody over there. Like, they are complete. That is the most skill position just deprived team in the entire NFL right now. Tennessee has nobody. And so to assume that they can operate with a decent offense up against one of the league's best defenses is kind of, just like a wishful thinking, essentially. And I think the Patriots, are going to go up in this one. I have to lean Damian Harris. All right, we have A.J. Dillon or Brandon Ayuk. By the way, if you're viewing this on Twitter, you guys can go over to youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Once again, that's youtube.com/fantasyintervention. And you guys can bring your questions over there because we cannot see the questions over there on Twitter. So go to youtube.com/fantasyintervention. I actually bump up the YouTube questions to the front of the line if you guys hit subscribe. So if you guys have an immediate question you need to know right now, go to youtube.com/fantasyintervention, hit subscribe, and bring your question into the chat. I'll answer it first. All right, A.J. Dillon or Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk, he has me in a tough spot, right? Because I have Brandon Cooks, for example, or Brandon Ayuk. And I don't really want to play either one, but it's a flex spot back into my roster. This is an injury-depleted team, for fantasy purposes. And I have to decide whether to play Ayuk this week. And Ayuk has looked good. He's looked very good over the past few weeks. Deebo Samuel, I don't even think – did Deebo Samuel have a reception last week? I don't believe he did.
He did have a reception, but it was I think he had 1 or 2 for 10 yards.
Yeah, Brandon Ayuk was the only wide receiver on this team last week almost. So, if they end up utilizing in the same sort of fashion, you're talking about a massive game for Brandon Ayuk. However, it's do you trust this? Now, my main question actually revolves around, and I don't have the injury report up for this, is Aaron Jones active for this matchup? I don't believe that
they have not announced it. And it's an afternoon game too, so you're going to have – I don't know what time the 49ers play this morning. I don't know if I think it's an afternoon game.
I will look it up. So if Aaron Jones does not play, it's going to be an obvious question. Yeah, they both play at 4:25, so you'll know right around the same time. If Aaron Jones does not play, I'm going A.J. Dillon. If he does play, I'd probably lean more towards Brandon Ayuk, but still think that A.J. Dillon will see some workload. The Rams are actually pretty poor up against pass-catching running backs. If you guys go to fantasyintervention.com/DOCE, you guys can check out the dose score. They're 24th ranked. They're allowing a 7.24 dose score. And what is that? 11.1 points per game to pass-catching running backs individually. A.J. Dillon has showed that he's actually relevant in the pass-catching role. He's done it now, 3 or 4 weeks thus far this season. So I still think that he has some relevance. I'm not saying bench A.J. Dillon if Jones does play. However, I'll probably take Ayuk over Dillon if he does. It'll be a close one, though.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think if, like you said, Aaron Jones plays, you have to lean Ayuk. I mean, Ayuk does have a good matchup. I mean, the Vikings do allow the second most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. I know that he kind of, Ayuk's kind of hot and cold sometimes, but he has at least 7 targets in 2 of his last 3 games. So hopefully that kind of helps him out. But yeah, if Dillon gets the full workload by himself, you just have to go with that route there for sure. But if Jones plays, definitely Ayuk then at that point.
And there's a chance, by the way, that the Minnesota goes up early. With their wide receivers and how dynamic they are, there's a chance they could get up by a couple of touchdowns, and all of a sudden you're talking about a game where Jimmy Garoppolo actually has to pass.
Right.
But it always scares me. This offense is something that's very unreliable. Shanahan's a genius, and we'll just end it at that. All right, Dame in the chat. What's going on, Dame? I like that name, man. All right, full PPR flex. Who do I pick? Cooks, Sanders, or Elijah Moore? Brandon Cooks, he showed some chemistry with Tyrod Taylor in week 1. However, it has not been there since Tyrod Taylor came back. So I'm going to fade Cooks in this one up until I start seeing more targets going his way. It seems like teams are just keying in on him, and they're forcing Nico Collins, the rookie, to beat him. They're forcing other players on this offense to get the targets while they're taking Cooks completely out of the game, and it's been working. So I'm going to fade Cooks, and now it's between Sanders and Elijah Moore. And Sanders has an excellent matchup, but we don't know how this is going to shake out in terms of how they're going to utilize their players. I'm hoping that Sanders just goes back to being playing the 92% of snaps or whatever he saw in the first few weeks of the season, but now he actually gets the carries, right? Like that's the hope. Watch, we're going to see Jalen Hurts throw it 50 times this game. No, but I mean, the hope is that he actually becomes the bell cow again and actually sees the work on the ground as well as in the air. However, it's not a guarantee, and it's far from that. So I think for this week, I'm going to go Elijah Moore over Sanders and just wait to see what happens. But I do think that Sanders has a higher upside. I think that Sanders is the right call if we knew what the coaches were going to do over there for the Eagles. But, I mean, we saw Kenny Gainwell inactive last week over Jordan Howard, which was absolutely, baffling. We saw Kenny Gainwell be the backup running back to Miles Sanders, only to get shit on, over the first few weeks following Miles Sanders' injury. So I'm going to wait to see what they do with Sanders this week. I'm going to go with Elijah Moore. Like I said, he's been wide receiver 1 over the past 4 weeks of the season. I'm going to go Elijah Moore.
Yeah, I mean, this one's a tough one, honestly. I'm probably going to lean Miles Sanders still. I mean, I love Elijah Moore, but it is Zach Wilson to some extent. Sanders, for me, the way I see it is that we could look and see what happens this week, but Jordan Howard comes back next week. And they seem to love Jordan Howard in this offense to use him in that ground and pound at times. And especially since he's not playing this week, I would have to assume as long as Sanders doesn't fumble the ball this week, God forbid he doesn't, that he's going to see at least 65, 75% of the carries in this matchup. He'll probably see a few targets here and there, and it's a very favorable matchup. So I'm probably going to lean Miles Sanders on this one, just because I feel like he's going to see the workload this week.
I can't disagree with you. It's something where, like I said, we know what makes sense, but we can never make the decision for the coaches.
Right.
All right, so we have A.J. Dillon or Miles Sanders, and this is tough once again because we're sitting there talking about how we want to try and play A.J. Dillon if Aaron Jones doesn't play. But both these guys have a lot of questions surrounding them. So for me personally, man, I'm going to lean A.J. Dillon because I think he's a safer option and he has higher upside. It's really close for me. I'm going to go A.J. Dillon. Oof.
Is the Eagles play at 1:00?
The Eagles play at 1.
Okay, yeah. I think this is a situation where if you're like you're projected to lose by a good amount. I would go Sanders and hope that he sees that big workload this week and just goes nuts against a really bad Giants run defense. But if you're close, I think go A.J. Dillon on this one personally. No matter if Aaron Jones plays or not, I think A.J. Dillon has a good piece of this offense to himself here, and I'd rather just rely on that than go with that risky with Miles Sanders, because God forbid he does fumble and they throw Boston Scott in the rest of the game. So I think if you're behind a lot, throw Sanders in for that huge upside. And if you're close, I'd go A.J. Dillon and hope for the best and hope for Aaron Jones out and you get that bigger upside then.
All right, so we have a couple questions coming in from YouTube. I told you all I'd prioritize the YouTube questions. Make sure you guys hit subscribe over there, youtube.com/fantasyintervention. What's up, Sean? I hope you've been well as well. So he has to start or sit in the flex Elijah Moore, Jerry Judy, or T. Higgins. I play T. Higgins every week in hopes that his target share actually, comes to fruition. However, it hasn't happened. Meanwhile, Jerry Judy has a tough matchup. I believe Mike Davis is playing the slot corner. Or is it? No, it's the dude from the Denver Broncos. Anyways, one of the elite slot corners in the NFL. I'm going to fade Jerry Judy as well, and I'm going to take Elijah Moore once again, the wide receiver one over the past 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'm on the same page there. He's going to see at least 8 targets in this game. I can't say the same for Jerry Judy and T. Higgins confidently enough. So.
Yep. All right, we have Mike Peterson from YouTube. Ramondre, Bateman, or Hilliard. Once again, if you all go to youtube.com/fantasyintervention, hit subscribe. I will prioritize YouTube questions first. Ramondre, Bateman, or Hilliard. Yes, it is very, very sexy choices, Mike. Bateman is somebody who has seen an uptick in targets. We keep on hoping for this breakout week. I don't believe it's going to be this week. I'm going to go with Hilliard in this because Hilliard should see the targets. I expect the Titans to be down. We'll probably see 7 targets or so minimum to Hilliard this week. I'm going to go Hilliard. Assuming this is a PPR, by the way. If it's not PPR, I'm going Bateman.
I'm probably going to go Bateman. I know everyone was disappointed at him not having a big breakout week last week that everyone wanted him to do, but no Lamar Jackson last week. Lamar Jackson has been great as a passer this year, and Hilliard, I like his possible upside, but does he see these targets still? That's my concern that he doesn't see them, even though he saw them last week, and then the next week he'll have 2 this week. That's my small concern. I know Bateman is going to probably see 5 or 6 targets in this game, and then I think it's a decent matchup against the Browns. So, and I think this could be a pretty tough game where they're going to have to throw the ball more than they're going to be able to run the ball. So I probably lean Bateman because I like his play, and plus, Hollywood Brown's a little banged up. God forbid he gets hurt in this game this week or has to leave early because he's hurt. Hate to put that on him, but.
All right, we have Myles Gaskin as flex or DJ Moore. ESPN, PPR, also Matthew Stafford, or Kirk Cousins. Let's start. What's up?
DJ Moore.
Yeah, DJ Moore for sure. He has an advantageous matchup. I know it's Cam Newton, but I'm definitely locking in DJ Moore in this one. And then Stafford or Kirk Cousins. I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford. I think it could end up being a shootout between the Green Bay Packers and the Rams. We could see a good amount of passes. The injury report doesn't really concern me as much. So I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I'm going with Stafford too. I think this is a great match between the Packers and the Rams, and I think there's a good chance that the Packers get up early, slightly on the Rams, just because they've just been kind of up and down so much on both offense and defense, which is going to force Stafford to throw the ball a little bit more.
All right, let's run through a couple of these because we are closed in on that 1:00 time.
Ooh, we are.
So let's go ahead and let's do Higbee or Arnold.
Dan Arnold, I like the matchup better this week, and I'm hoping that he kind of rebounds from that poor 0 target week last week. So good matchup for me.
All right, I'm going to go Arnold. Let's go with Lockett or Ayuk.
Lockett, you just have to trust him that he's going to see the 7 targets a game that he usually gets from Russell Wilson. So
I don't like the slot corner. I mean, I like the slot corner when we're talking about Fuller over there for Washington. I think that he is going to do a decent job of shutting down Lockett. Washington looks like a different team over the past 2 weeks. They really do after, that bye week. It's something as to where we're seeing this team actually come to fruition as to what they should actually be doing, or I should say the past week. They're doing what they should be doing in terms of playing defense. They're not playing as much off coverage. and slot corners have been tearing them up underneath as of late. But last week we saw them actually play press on Godwin. So yeah, no, it has been 2 weeks. I'm sorry. It was up against Godwin, and then last week they played a lot more press as well. It's been a different defense. I like Lockett. I don't like Lockett. I like Ayuk in that matchup. Anderson or Patrick PPR. Anderson shouldn't even be on a roster. I'm going Patrick.
Yeah, Patrick. Yeah, I don't even know who Anderson is honestly right now. That
Robbie Anderson.
Oh, Robbie Anderson. Oh, yeah.
That's
yeah.
Exactly. That's the perfect reaction.
It's like Anderson. Who the hell's Anderson? Yeah,
I don't like either one, David. If you have another option for this one, let us know. Put it in the chat because I don't like either one of these. The Chargers are great up against wide receivers, and Anderson has been non-existent thus far. Give us another option over there in the chat if you can. We'll come back to it. Flex OBJ or Jerry Judy. I've already talked about how I don't like Jerry Judy in the matchup. I'm going OBJ. I think that he has welcome to the Rams type performance.
Yep.
All right, Burkhead or Ingram. And this one's interesting because Burkhead saw 18 carries and he only rushed for 40 yards last week, but it wasn't the best matchup. He has an easier matchup against the Jets this week. I talked about it, at the beginning of the show, how much I like Evan Ingram this week, and I hate Evan Ingram. I am not an Evan Ingram fan, but Evan Ingram this week should absolutely smash. He should see the targets. He should be playing the slot wide receiver role. I'm going Evan Ingram.
Yeah, Evan Ingram too. I mean, Burkhead has an interesting matchup, but I think a lot of his work was in the second half of that game last week. So I don't know if that's going to be the same result this week. So if they're going to be up by that much. So yeah, Evan Ingram for me, honestly, good matchup for him.
All right, let's go. Sorry, I have people texting me telling me that I have people that I need to switch out of my lineups. All right, Dame, need help. I don't know who to start. Brady versus the Colts or Herbert versus Denver. Brady versus the Colts should be, I have it as my highest scoring game of the week. I think it's going to be a shootout. You cannot run up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but you can pass relatively easily, including the DOSE score, the dump off containment efficiency score. You guys can find it over there at fantasyintervention.com/DOCE. Let's see. Tampa Bay has the 29th overall dump off containment efficiency score. They're allowing a 7.59 DOSE score, and that is equated to 12.8 points per game to pass catching running backs. Now, Nyheim Hines makes sense, but as of late, the past 4 weeks, Nyheim Hines hasn't even ran routes. Now, that could have to do with matchups, but I believe he's only ran like one route over, or more than 15 routes one time over the past 4 games. It's been all Jonathan Taylor. He's even running the routes. So I'm sitting there thinking that Jonathan Taylor should have an excellent game in the receiving aspect, which could lead to a shootout. Either way, Nyheim Hines, Jonathan Taylor, doesn't really matter. They're going to get yardage. They're going to get points up against this Tampa Bay defense. And Brady's going to be forced to have to pass. Meanwhile, the Indianapolis Colts are great up against the running backs as a whole. So once again, Tampa Bay is going to have to utilize their slot guys, going to have to utilize the tight end position, and that's going to be the run game this week. It's not going to be Leonard Fournette. It's not going to be Ronald Jones. It's going to be Rob Gronkowski and Chris Godwin, who are going to be the running back versions of the Buccaneers this week. I think that Tom Brady is going to see over 40 attempts pretty easily.
Colts allow them most touchdowns this season at 25 passing touchdowns, so Brady has been on fire. I'm not going to go against that, so go Brady.
All right, Cam, Stafford, or Jackson. I can start 2. I'm going Stafford and Jackson. Don't bench.
Yeah, go start your studs. Yeah, honestly, that's the best way about it. Jackson, Stafford.
All right, where are we? We have Jamal. What's up, Jamal? Good to see you back in the chat again. So should I start Myles Gaskins and flex or swap him out with DJ Moore? Wait, was this the same question from above, Jamal? Was this somebody else?
I don't know. I think it might be a different person. I don't know. But keep DJ Moore in.
It's DJ Moore. Oh, wait, this was from the YouTube question, wasn't it?
Probably, yeah. I think it was a YouTube question.
Yeah, so I think that, it's DJ Moore regardless. All right, we have Mike Peterson. This was also a YouTube question. Galladay or Crowder over there for Helena. What's going on, Helena? How you doing? Once again, for the second question of the night. The Philadelphia Eagles have been very good up against wide receivers. I believe they're second ranked, at least on DraftKings they are. However, Galladay is going to have a significant advantage over Darius Slay. Galladay is a jump ball type receiver, and Darius Slay really hasn't matched up against many of those thus far in the season from the research that I was doing. So it's tough to sit there and gauge how Darius Slay plays up against receivers who are bigger, more physical, can catch the balls downfield, 20 yards downfield off of a back shoulder fade. Previously, like in the past years, Darius Slay has not done well up against those receivers. We've actually seen a significant uptick in fantasy points whenever he has to play against those guys. However, I can't trust Galladay. I can't do it. I have to go Crowder in a game that should be somewhat pass heavy. We should see, hopefully, Zach Wilson start to check the ball down more often, at least more often than what he did over the previous, 5 games that he played before he getting hurt. I'm going to go Crowder in this one because I cannot trust Galladay, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Galladay have a big week.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat. I'd rather trust the safe side in Crowder because Galladay, I mean, he could have a big week. This could be a big week for him, but in the same sense, he could end up having 3 targets for 20 yards, and you don't want that.
Yep. Good luck to you as well, Colby. All right. We have Marcos Valdez, Cordell Patterson, T. Higgins, Ayuk, or Dillon. Also, Panthers or Texans defense. Man, I can never play the Texans defense in good faith. I know it's the Jets. I can't do it. I could see the Texans having an interception or two, maybe one return for a touchdown. So I guess there's the upside there. But I have to go with the Panthers in this one over the Texans. Up against the Dolphins, I mean, Tua makes mistakes, right? He's not the best, decision maker. Like, I know he's not given a ton of downfield opportunities where defense can intercept the ball. But, yeah, I'm going Panthers defense to start this out. As for the other question, I think I'm going to go with Dillon in this one in hopes that Aaron Jones does not play.
Yeah, Miami's offensive line is not great at pass protection. There, Panthers could probably easily get like 3 or 4 sacks against the Dolphins this week for sure. So I'd lean that route, and I'd go Dillon no matter what in this matchup. Probably. I mean, if Aaron Jones does play, I might lean Ayuk. We kind of mentioned this before, but yeah, Dillon's probably the biggest one for me.
All right, we have, let's see, next one. Jacob Myers or Damian Harris in the flex PPR. All right, so the Jets aren't good up against slot wide receivers. So Jacob Myers is still a play for me in most cases, but I'm pretty sure this is going to end up being a game where the Patriots go up early. And my fear with Jacob Myers is that he just doesn't see enough receptions, and you need receptions for Jacob Myers to be relevant. Like, you have to see 6, 7, 8 receptions because he's going to take those 6, 7, 8 receptions for 40 to 50 yards. I'm going to go ahead and lean with Damian Harris in this one.
I'm going to go Jacoby Myers still, honestly. I'm really just hoping that maybe they allow Mac Jones to do something against, a pretty bad overall Titans defense against wide receivers. They do allow the most fantasy points still per game. I know they played better, but I'd rather take my shot on him because I just don't trust Damian Harris enough to see the full workload with Stevenson and everyone else in that backfield.
All right, we have Waddle or Judy over here from Jamie. What's going on, Jamie, man? Thanks for joining us on YouTube, youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Waddle or Judy in this one. So, like I talked about, Judy is not in a good position, but neither is Waddle this week up against the Panthers. I mean, the Panthers defense has been great up against wide receivers. So now it's like, all right, which one has a better chance of getting a touchdown? That's where, I'm kind of looking at it. I'm like, all right, see, I actually think I'm going to go the opposite route on this one with Judy. I mean, we're going to see Cam Newton rushing the ball a ton, right? We're going to see the Panthers rushing the ball a ton. I think it's going to end up being a position where we're looking at the Panthers running the time of possession like 70% of this game. Probably. And that scares me for Waddle because Waddle needs to see volume once again. I think that Judy can actually see more opportunities for touchdowns because you can run up against the Chargers. So I think they're going to utilize Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon a ton, and it's going to get them in more red zone opportunities than what we're going to see from the Dolphins. I think that could lead to more touchdowns for Waddle. I think it could lead to, shorter third down conversions where they're, in 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. And that's where you hit the slot wide receivers, you hit the tight ends, for an opportunity. Maybe Noah Fant takes over for this one. I don't really like either one of these options. I'm trying to make a case, for Judy, and that's the route that I see it going.
See, and I get your point. I definitely don't hate it at all. But so for me, what it is that the Dolphins don't have a good run offense. They're gonna have to throw the ball more than enough times than the Broncos have to because they do have 2 backs that are running very well in a favorable matchup. Jerry Judy's had 3, red zone opportunities all season so far, and for me, it just Waddle is their number 1 target. There's no Parker again. There's no Fuller again this week here. there's no one outside of Gesicki and Waddle you can really trust in the Miami's offense that's going to see 8 or 9 targets in this game here. So I'm going to lean Waddle just with the chemistry he's got with Tua. I know both are not great matchups, but I'd rather trust the consistency he's seeing in targets, and that the fact that Miami just has no run offense and the Panthers are amazing at stopping the run. So they're going to have to force the pass.
All right, we got a couple more in here. Please get them in. We're going to run through these last two. If you guys get them in before the end of the show, that's phenomenal. And we'll go ahead and finish this out, wrap it up. All right, we have Lockett over Judy. What's our take? I like that. I don't like the Lockett matchup, but I like it better than Judy's matchup. So I'm going to take Lockett over Judy as well.
Yeah, I think we talked about this once already, but yeah, Lockett for me. I still like Lockett.
All right, we have Lockett or Cooks. This one's interesting. Brandon Cooks has been essentially shut out because defenses are focusing on him. I've already talked about it. I think I'm going to go Lockett in this one in hopes that Washington gets into a zone coverage, and Lockett can beat zones very well. He's actually significantly better up against zone than he is up against man. It's kind of crazy because you would expect an athlete like that to actually be really good up against man. He's better in zone. He can find these open gaps, and Russell Wilson looks for him more in zone, more so than he looks for DK Metcalf in zone. So if Washington goes into a zone coverage, which they've been doing from time to time this season, Lockett should have a massive game. I'm going to go with Lockett over Cooks in this one.
Yeah, I'm probably going to lean the same direction here. Cooks, I can't trust them. I mean, the Jets are pretty good for the most part against wide receivers. They don't let a ton of fantasy points to wide receivers this season here. They get beat by the run a lot, even though the Houston's run offense is not good, but I'd still rather just trust Lockett. Cooks has not been there lately.
All right. We got one last question. Screwed up a little on Thursday and forgot to throw a flex in. I'm limited to Collins or Fant now. Is Collins droppable for a weekly streamer at this point? I'm guessing he's talking about Nico Collins. Correct me if I'm wrong, Benjamin. But I'm going to go with Fant in this one. I think Fant's going to have a massive game. I talked about it at the beginning of the show. I think even Albert O is going to be relevant in this one. I'm going to lock in Fant as my flex guy. What say you?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat. Would that change your opinion if it was Alex Collins?
Oh.
I don't know if that's what he's talking about now, but it could be Alex Collins. Does that change your opinion on the situation?
Yeah, because that would make more sense for droppable for a weekly streamer at this point. I don't like Collins' usage. I don't like his efficiency. There's nothing about Collins that I like. I've dropped him almost in every single league already. Okay, cool. Yeah, Benjamin comes in and says it's Alex Collins. I still don't like that matchup. What's up?
I would rock a Noah Fant still. Collins, he could be droppable if you're looking for an upside streamer option on the waivers.
All right, guys. Good week to y'all. Steven, real quick, do you want to let everybody know where to find you?
Yeah, guys, you can find me over on Twitter at Coach Stephen P. Happy to help you out with any fantasy questions anytime. I'm always available to talk fantasy.
Yeah, and you guys can go check out all of our content over there at Join Our Circle _ on Twitter. You guys can find me at FF _ intervention on Twitter and fantasyintervention.com. Go check out the dose score, the dump off containment efficiency score. If you guys have any more flex questions, it will tell you which pass catching running backs will perform. You guys can find it over there at fantasyintervention.com/DOCE. Thank you guys for joining, and thank you all for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.
Later.